All right, here we go. Is this Amber? Can you?
Yes, it is.
Fantastic. Okay. So, Amber, this is a wonderful opportunity. You know, I've gone to the Cryon conferences and many of them, as you know, and I always wonder what is this Lemurian Sisterhood? What is it all about? And all the other individuals on this call, some of them have been to the Lemurian Sisterhood, and some of them are wondering what this is about if they've never been to this. So let us get started, and I have some
Okay.
questions to ask you if you're okay with that.
I think I can handle that.
Awesome.
Yes.
So the first,
Well,
sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry. So Amber, I know that I've given a bit of an overview of who you are here. Let me start by saying that, I mean, there's a lot more to you than what's on this slide that I'm showing people. But really, you've been practicing holistic health for as long as you can remember, I'm sure. And
Yeah, pretty much.
And you're also internationally well known, a teacher, facilitator, author, recording artist. I know you've got an amazing set of CDs that we can probably talk about later on. And you're also a healing intuitive and a channel. So I know I've seen all of that in the seminars that I've had the pleasure of being. You're also the very much a co-designer and facilitator of the very popular and profound Cryon Discovery series. As a matter of fact, Amber, that's the first time I met you was in Florida.
Yeah,
That was my first
yeah.
Cryon experience, and I was fortunate enough to have it at the Discovery series, which you and of course Sid were doing this. So I'm truly honored and excited to be actually coming a full circle, and now I'm interviewing you on these. Of course,
Spirit always has a plan.
that's true. And you're, of course, the
Yeah.
creator and facilitator of Lemurian Sisterhood seminars, which we'll get into very quickly here. And these seminars are an invitation to be awakened, anointed, and initiated into the sacred circle of the Lemurian sisters. I'm so honored to be here interviewing you, Amber. So let us get going with this. So the Lemurian Sisterhood movement is now an international movement with chapters in various parts of the world. And these are growing. I know that people have been knocking on your doors asking to start these chapters. Can you tell us how this movement came about and what was your role? What's the story on this?
Well, if we really go back to the basic place that it started, it was when I met Sid Wolf in 1998. And he and his wife had moved to Colorado because they were looking for a life change, and they had been part of something called the Lemurian Fellowship in Ramona, California for 14 years. And when I met Sid, he became my first teacher of things Lemurian. And I never felt like I was a Lemurian or, I was from anywhere but, Connecticut. And I didn't have that, I didn't know about my Akash, but it was interesting that Spirit put our two lives together, and he taught me from that 14 years about Lemuria. And my interest in it was uh, the part that really appealed to me was that the Lemurian spiritual civilization was built with the women at the spiritual center. And they were really the ones that, if I could use more New Age terms, held the grid of energy of spirit in for at least 26,000 years. And so because I'm a feminist and not raised that way in this life, it really appealed to me that women were being acknowledged for their importance in how the world works and how the spiritual world works, because I was raised in a very patriarchal, religious world model. So that by itself appealed to me about the Lemurian Sisterhood, or, excuse me, about the Lemurians. But it didn't really, I didn't have a, wake up, I got to go create the Lemurian Sisterhood one day. It was more than 10 years later, 12 years later, and Sid knew Lee and Lee Carroll, and introduced me to him. I had read a couple of Cryon books, you know, and I wasn't like searching for a guru, but I met Lee, and he was just the nicest guy, nice and funny and warm and just lovely to be around. And since Sid was his friend, I saw him more. And then one thing led to another, and Sid and I ended up producing these discovery workshops. So I became a producer and a facilitator of those discovery workshops. And then Lee asked me to travel with him and doing these 2-day seminars all over the country. And once I started doing that, I was present to a lot more live Cryon channels. And in those days, that was in 2010, those days Dr. Todd was also traveling with us doing the pineal tones and the beginning of the Lemurian tones. And the Lemurian information started coming through Cryon for Dr. Todd and about the tones. But it's still, I still didn't go, oh yeah, you know, this is my thing. It didn't happen to me that way. I had to have an awakening that was, came when I least expected it, so I couldn't be in resistance to it. As a double Taurus, I can do resistance, you know, like Oscar-winning resistance. So Spirit, you know, really orchestrated a way for me to be in a position of complete openness and receptivity, and I had an Akashic awakening. And in that Akashic awakening, I saw myself in a circle of women, and I was being healed. And I knew that the women were women that I knew, but they didn't look like those women. They looked like beams of light, really. But I knew that they stood for the women in my life, in this life. And I still didn't know where I was until I was leaving, excuse me, leaving this cave. And as I left the cave, I realized I was in a lava tube in Hawaii, in Lemuria. And all that took place there was taking place to awaken my memory of that life.
That's amazing. Wow. So you're saying that the role of the women in the legendary city or place called Lemuria, the role of the women were to hold the spiritual space.
Yes.
And
They
you,
were the healers, they were the teachers, they were the priestesses, the goddesses, they were the women that really did the work of creating a grid of spiritual energy and holding that grid. And we did that by having meetings, by having gatherings.
that's
And
quite remarkable.
that just, yeah, go ahead.
When I recall back, and then you've done some, like as you mentioned, done a lot of work with Lee, and when Lee mentions about how women or how in individuals who are very spiritual or were shamans or healers in past lives were almost um, you know killed off, not almost, but were killed off.
Right.
And there was
Yeah.
a lot of oppression. And so now your role is to awaken the healer within and for women to take, step into their power. Is that what's going on here?
Yes. And you know, after that first experience, um, I told Lee about that first experience, and he was the one that said I needed to have a meeting. And that meeting was to take place. My experience happened on September 9th, 2011, and I told him about it on October 10, 2011. And then he said I needed to have a meeting of women when we were in Argentina on 11/11/11, which we have an anniversary of that coming up Friday now, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, yeah. So that was really the first circle of any kind. It wasn't called the Lemurian Sisterhood circle, There was not, that just didn't happen yet. I was waiting for Spirit to open doors or put another crumb in front of me because I didn't know what to do with that Akashic Awakening information. It was so profound for me. I was okay if that's all there was.
Right.
You know, if only that one thing happened. I would have been, I have felt that I received a tremendous blessing from Spirit. But there was more to come, as we know.
Now,
And so,
how did you get
go
the
ahead.
name how did you get the name Meleha? Was that part of the conversation you had with Lee?
It became part of the conversation. So I started doing the sisterhood circles. I did a few of them in 2012, but the big one was in Hawaii on 12/21/2012, and that was really a huge anchoring of this energy. It was as if there was this big, and I do think that the universe has just been kind of hanging out waiting for this, at this time, and for me to, get a clue and step into this, and then, each step that it takes, I believe that it's already out there waiting for us to say yes. So after that 12/21/2012, only a short time later, Sid left for the other side. And so 2013 was a year of just, Brian called that the year of recalibration. There was no Summer Light Conference. And, a lot of people went through big things like that. And so when I was hosting Lee that year in Boulder, just a few days after Sid's passing. But a whole year later, in 2014, in Boulder, Lee came up to me and asked if I would like to have a Cryon channel before the Lemurian Sisterhood meeting in the evening. And what do you say to that? Of course. Of course. And so in that channel, I was given the name Meleha. And it's really one of the very few channels that has not been recorded, even though two of us had our phones set to record. It didn't record on either phone. But Cryon did say that I had to have waited a whole year after Sid's passing to be able to take this next step. And so Meleha, the name, means celebration of life, and the sacred breath is the H-A, ha, like in aloha. It's the spirit of the breath, and that's, any of you that know me know I'm always talking about breathing and, using the breath to really keep us in our being, to come home to our being, to get what our being, our information, our Akash, our DNA, our cellular memory is all in there, and we can access it when we go in through the breath. So it's just, and not just, it is another one of the steps on this winding road that Spirit has put in front of me. Because that was a big shift when Cryon started coming to the meetings and doing a channeling before every meeting where Lee and I are together. That includes the Summer Light Conferences, and that also includes different places around the world. Like we just did in New Zealand, we had 2. And so in those channels, a lot of information about the Lemurian Sisterhood has come through. And Cryon has kind of built a history of the sisterhood and what it was and what we did and who was in it and what the world was like then, what Lemuria was like. And it's been very different, I think, than certainly than we were led to believe by Hollywood in movies about destruction and, misuse of power and all that stuff. Nothing like that. And, certainly in Hollywood they never had movies about the Lemurian Sisterhood. So we have this catalog now of channels that has the history of the sisterhood that keeps expanding. If anyone's listened to the latest channel that was in Auckland, um, it was amazing that Cryon said, you may think you've been a woman for many, many lives, but when you had to leave Lemuria, and you had, when Lemuria was sinking and you thought it was best to go, uh, and you came to other countries, a lot of you that came to this country and to Europe, reincarnated in Europe, became men, and the wisdom and the knowledge, part of the wisdom and the knowledge, not all of it, was brought into a movement called the Freemasons. So that was kind of a big aha. So that was a big answer to your little question. So
Well,
I'm happy to stop about that now if there's something else.
well, I want to explore that a bit more because it's intriguing the history of the journey of the Lemurian spirit, if I may call it that, because it's 26,000 years old and it's endured and it keeps it enduring. Like you had an awakening, but how many other individuals out there have had a similar awakening about Lemuria and their role in Lemuria, which is quite fascinating. Is there any other information around the history of Lemuria that you wish to share that was covered? That maybe listeners may not be familiar with all the channelings.
Well, boy, it's a lot. There are 3 dozen channels at least now, and they're not long. Mostly they're anywhere between 8 and 12 or 15 minutes,
Right.
and yeah. So
Would they go on your
one of the other
website?
things, yes, they're all on my website. And it's under the Lemurian Sisterhood tab. It says free audio, Lemurian Sisterhood, free audios. Yes, so they're easy to find, easy to listen to. My beautiful, beautiful hosts sometimes play them at their sacred circles. So, but that's another
Another
thing.
story.
So the history of Lemuria being revealed like that, because for me there are 3 histories. There is the history that I learned from Sid, and it's interesting that history. I just recently bought another copy of their book, Lemurian Fellowship book called The Sun Rises. So now they're sending me all kinds of stuff in the mail. But I wanted to read that book again because it made such an impression on me. But now I feel like I'm reading something that's really old and that doesn't have, the new energy that Cryon is giving us. And really, I feel connected to. Of course, I would. And then there's also the energy of Aurelia Louise Jones, who wrote the Telos books in Mount Shasta. And she was a beautiful, beautiful soul. And she really woke up that Lemurian energy in the States, at least, and maybe in the world. I think it had been dormant for many, many years. And she moved to Mount Shasta. Lee had her at Summer Light conferences doing channelings there. I never had the pleasure, honor of meeting her, but Lee would have her on stage, and he still honors her whenever we have an event there.
Wow.
That history is that Lemurians went when the island was sinking, the continent was sinking and becoming islands. When they came to the U.S. and they came as energy beings, and they moved into the mountain, not under the mountain, but into Mount Shasta. And that there's an energetic city there. There's lots of pictures in her books of this, and of Adama, who was or is maybe the leader, the decision maker of this underground city. And the pictures show him looking very human, a little pale because he doesn't get out much, I guess, but in a human type body, not in a alien looking form. And so there's that version. And most people know how much I love Mount Shasta. But I have not had, in all the times I've been there recently, which is, it's been very concentrated times in the past few years, I don't have a feeling for that resonance. The mountain for me has an unparalleled resonance of anything, anywhere where I've been in the world. I've been to a lot of places. I haven't been to all the places. I still have some on my list, but it has a unique energy. So I experience it um, as a vibration. I don't see lights, and I haven't seen beings, but I feel the energy there. And usually when I'm there, either by myself or with a group, something profound happens to me. There's a very profound channeling if I'm with a group, or I have a big shift in my being, something I've been thinking about or praying about happens. It just happens. And so I go back there every year. This year I'll go back in May. I have 2 different times set up for groups in May, because for me it's a spiritual home, a soul home, even though it's not connected exactly with the local Lemurian feeling.
Okay. So so now we bring it to today, like, in terms of the present moment, and you have kind of activated this role within you, or it's been activated within you, to carry out the gathering. And so for those of us who have not, now obviously I'll never be allowed to enter into this gathering. It's a sacred circle for the women, and I'm quite happy to hold the space outside the gathering. But can you tell us what goes on in these gatherings, perhaps for people who are not familiar with
I'm I'm sorry, it's a secret. No, I'm kidding. I mean, you have to have the special handshake. No, what it depends. Now, my beautiful host Anita in Red Deer, and my host Elaine, I know, is on here from Salem, Massachusetts, and maybe there are other hosts that are listening. When we have an evening meeting after a Cryon event, that is one kind of circle. And then there are other events, like I do at Summer Light Conference, or that I did in New Zealand, or different when I was in Austria or Munich, different places around the world. And then there are the seminars that, like I'm doing in outside of Calgary in Red Deer, where we have a full day to experience different Lemurian energies. And together we create our own grid right then. We create, because I really believe that whoever is coming to these meetings are the exact people that need to be there for some reason. And I might even go as far as to say, in my opinion, it is for the growth of the soul of that person, but also for the growth of humanity. And that when we gather in these circles, we're saying yes. We're saying, yes, we are here. And yes, we are waking up to this place inside us that is sacred, that we all have, men and women. But for me, the work is with women. So we're waking up to our own sacredness. And when we do that, we can begin to teach the world that we are sacred, and that they are sacred, that all life is sacred, that Gaia is sacred, that our Pleiadian parents are sacred. And in my opinion, that has been just taken out of all parts of our life. There wasn't anything in my religious upbringing that taught me I was sacred. It taught me the complete opposite. So when we're in those groups and we're having that conversation and we're stating I am sacred, and we're creating beautiful altars where we place stones and prayers and affirmations, we're saying this is sacred. We are bringing forth this part of our own Akash, each one of us in a different way, and literally placing it on the altar and acknowledging this life now as a sacred mission. So we do a lot of different things. We'll have an activation or an initiation, Lemurian DNA awakening. I'll channel from the Lemurian days. There'll be connections to the Pleiadians. But the doing is all a part of creating that energetic pattern, grid, whatever we want to call it, around us that is a light in the universe.
Wow.
And that sends out light and attracts light and helps us each become light.
So you're doing these gatherings in order for women to take their rightful role in the shift in consciousness, if I can summarize it that way, because
That's a beautiful thing, yeah. Yeah, I
it's
love
been
that.
missing. It's been missing because or at least in the North American, Northern Hemisphere, Cryon talks about how it's male-centric, male-dominated, and then more recently, the North and the South, the energy is shifting in terms of we're getting more feminine
Right,
energy coming in the Northern
right.
Hemisphere, and your role is to actually help facilitate, amplify that, and having women step into their authentic self and say, here we are here awakened women, and this is a sacred space, a safe space for women to claim their rightful place in the new energy.
To claim their divine power, yeah.
How
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, it is. And, you know, each meeting, I come away from there feeling so honored and so blessed because I know what it's like to be a woman living in a program in this world, in a program that keeps us less than who we really are. And so each time one woman, just one, says, I'm not doing that anymore. I know there's more, there's something different. I'm ready. You know, I'm willing. I'll leap into this even though I don't know what it's going to look like. Because that's the other thing is we don't really have a lot of role models for what an awakened woman looks like. And so we are creating that.
And maybe
We're
that's a
saying
good thing.
each one of us.
Maybe that's a good thing because if you had a role model, people would follow that and not be authentic to themselves. So
Maybe.
this is how wonderful service you're rendering in these gatherings. And I know it's, Anita is on here, and when I was speaking with friends, and I was excited, Amber, that you would come to Alberta. And I'm really excited to be doing these workshops with you next weekend. But what I said to my friend was, I said, Amber, just coming from New Zealand, she was in Germany, she was in Australia, and now she's coming to Red Deer. And I'm just kind of saying, wow. I mean, you know, when I talked to you, Amber, I said, why do you come to Red Deer? Because we're so honored to have you here in Alberta. Why Red
Oh,
Deer?
thank you.
And your answer to me was, I don't know if you can remember this. She says, because they called me. It was almost like
Yeah.
you didn't need 100 people before you decided to go. You just said, I was called by my sisters and I'm going. They called me, I'm going.
Mhm.
And if your schedule permits you, you will go. And I'm so honored, and that is so humbling for me to see that happen. You are a role model in a sense, not only for women, but I think for men as well, because we do need to step into a balance of our male and feminine energies. So thank you for.
Well, and that's the thing. Oh, it's my honor, really, really, it's my honor. I love my Canadian family, so I'm happy to come play with you all. And yes, the thing about the men, it is an issue. Men ask all the time, why can't they come to the Lemurian Sisterhood meetings? Or the other thing they ask is there a Lemurian Brotherhood? And I say, no, but you could start one. And so I've had a lot of different ways that men have participated. Some of them have given money as scholarships for women that can't afford to come. to the meetings, which I thought that was just brilliant. A man walked up to my vendor table and he said, I know I was a woman in other lives. I'm just not one in this life. But I've got this money and I would like to scholarship 2 women to go to this event. And I thought, well, how cool is that?
Wow.
And other men have said to me, I'd like to meet with the other men who are waiting for their women during your meeting, because that happens. The men are sitting, the women are having a great meeting, and the men are kind of sitting. So they get together. And in Toronto earlier this year, we had the honor of having a wonderful host helper who is a facilitator of men's circles, and so we had I think 120 women in that Lemurian Sisterhood. It was the biggest group I've ever had besides Hawaii, and he had a group outside in the hall outside where we were, and there were 9 men, and when our meeting was over, I opened the connecting door to the hall and I invited them in, and they stood in front of all of these women, and I think it might have been a little intimidating for them, but the women were so happy and grateful, and they were, hugging these guys and thanking them and crying, and I think the men were a little overwhelmed, but it was a beautiful thing. This is what men can do. And all you have to do is hold the space. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't really have to do anything. You can just say, yeah, this is a good thing for women, because when, it's like the namaste prayer. When I'm in that place in me and you are in that place in you, there's only one of us. Right. And we're not separate, and we're not trying to be better or different or get above. There's one, and it's a beautiful balance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine.
How beautifully put. And you've answered the question around how men can get involved. They don't necessarily have to be in the meeting, but they can certainly hold the space and be enablers of change, because we all have a role to play in this. So I can see the role that Shamir here as a man can play in this, to support this. This is so wonderful.
Well, and that's I just want to say that's how this 11/11 event with you and I came up, because we were talking about how men are raised in your culture and that women are raised in my culture, and we both had the same thing going on, only the opposite. We're trained to be a certain way, to fit a certain model, and it doesn't give us any room to discover who we really are. It patterns us after something that's already been, that will keep us, in my opinion, controllable. It doesn't keep us reaching this incredible magnificence where we make our own damn decisions. We decide what we want, who we are, and the beautiful thing is what we bring to the world. You don't get that when you replicate people. You get a bunch of medicated people, pretty much. Because how can we be happy when we have this huge consciousness that's stuffed inside a limited, very limited learning system?
Wow. I just flashed something on the screen for everyone. Basically, it's what Amber referenced are the 2 workshops happening in Red Deer area. So if you are in the Alberta region or Western Canada region or Western United States for that matter, for United States people, the Canadian dollar is like 30% discount to you. So it's really awesome for you. But
yeah.
we're having on Friday, November 11th, this Friday, which is also Remembrance Day here, for our service personnel, our military personnel. We honor them for a moment of silence for their service and sacrifice. But on that day, that evening, Amber, I'm honored to host this with Amber, Divine Masculine, Divine Feminine, the Sacred Journey Towards Balance. And we will be talking about how the balance happens. And on Saturday, there's a full day of sisterhood seminar and the activation that Meleha talked about here. And of course, I'll be holding space way outside that space. So this is just wanted to kind of flag this to people since you mentioned it, Amber. But you alluded to something that I want to pursue a bit here. You said something about connecting with the Lemurian energy, connecting with the Pleiadian energy. Would you take us through a short meditation or connections exercise for those who are here
Oh, yeah.
and those who are going to be listening later on?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah.
Happy. Before I do that, I just want to say that I had a call today, a Skype with my beautiful host goddesses, and that's a program that just happened because people kept asking, how can we have more Lemurian Sisterhood meetings in our area? Because obviously I can't be everywhere in the physical. So I created a program for women to host Lemurian Sisterhood circles wherever they are. And today I had a call, and I love this. One of our hosts is in England, not very far from Glastonbury, and another one is actually in Lemuria, Hawaii, and then all across the world from there. So we had a beautiful call and a wonderful connection. So I'd like to really, I've been feeling in that energy still today, and so what I'd like to do is go with that and help everyone who's listening now and that will listen later come into that energy also. So let's just begin. And know that the mantle of spirit is around you, like a cloak that you wear, but there isn't any weight to it. So just take a breath now. Close your eyes and relax your face and your body. Just sink into wherever you're sitting. And let your body open as if the pores of your skin all over were little receptors, like a sponge almost. And as you breathe in, let the air come into your body from everywhere. And breathe into the center of your chest, into your heart. And when you breathe out the same way. And with the next breath in, let the mantle of spirit come in through you, through your body, all the way in, right to your heart. And let your heart be the meeting point. And then exhale the same way. And know that with each breath in, you bring more of this beautiful mantle that's wrapped around you, the hands of the divine. The heart of the divine touching your heart. And allow yourself to sink more deeply into that place and feel the light that comes with that breath. Feel the light coming in and staying there as you exhale, as if you're just gathering light into your physical being so that you're completely filled and maybe even overflowing with that light. And know that none of us can see each other with physical eyes. We can sense each other's light with our third eye. But just take a moment to connect from your heart, using the vision inside of you, to connect to the other light that is here. You may want to send out a beam or a ray or a filament of light from you to the light that is waiting to receive it. perhaps you send another one out in another direction. Light from your heart. Light that's come in. Light that's come in from Spirit. That's come in because we are light. And as we remember that, we gather it. As we reawaken to our own beautiful lightness, not only do we connect to others here, but we connect to our parents in the stars, in this galaxy and other galaxies. Try just unlimited thinking, feeling about light, that there really is no limit to what your light can touch and what light touches you. So come back to this planet for a moment and your light and your space. And take a breath. And this is the perfect time to feel yourself healed, whole, vibrating, resonant, without a thought, but a very clear purpose of being. And as you connect from your heart on this planetary light grid, all over our beautiful Gaia is light. There is no darkness. Each place is touched by the light that starts in you, so that our planet, our home in the galaxy, is covered, surrounded by this beautiful light. And right now, in this moment, it's seen from space. And our parents in deep space are saying, wow, they're doing good work. Wow, they're getting it. All right. The planet pulsing with the beautiful light that starts within you. And what we do to create healing and remembrance in ourselves creates healing and remembrance throughout this planet and sends a message into the galaxy. Our light is here, but it's also everywhere. So place your hands gently over your heart and feel that beautiful light. Breathe into it. And just say to yourself, this is me. This is why I'm here. This is my own sacred light. And it's mine to take care of me, and it's mine to share with the world, with the universe. And say this to yourself, I am sacred. I am sacred. I am sacred. My light is sacred. My heart is sacred. My life is sacred. The light being in me recognizes and honors the light being that is you, just as the light being that is you recognizes and honors the light being that is me. For when I am in that place in me, you are in that place in you. There is only one of us, times 100 million lights. So it is.
That was wonderful. Thank you. Yes.
I'm not going to have to pay my electric bill anymore if I keep doing this.
Well, you know, interestingly enough, and Amber, you and we can talk about Howard Martin for a bit. You are interviewing Howard Martin, who's the Executive Vice President of HeartMath, coming up on November 17th. And that, by the way, for everyone, it's a free webinar to join in. And Amber, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, because you began the webinar with the breath, you know, Meleha as in the breath, and you connected immediately with the heart math world. And so would you tell everyone how you came about with connecting with Howard Martin and what we're going to be doing on November 17th in this free webinar that you're going to interview him in?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to have to get back into that part of my brain. Those transmissions put me pretty far out there. But the heart, we know so little about our heart, and I'm very clear that it's not just a pump. And I started I heard about heart math 20 years ago, but because the word math was attached, M-E-T-H, I ran the other way. You know, I'm the one that flunked algebra in high school, and that was the end of it. But as my dear friend Greg Braden started to talk about heart math and show slides about the Global Coherence Initiative and feeling the shift in the energy of the planet, and Lee started to talk about this, I started to listen. And then I met you, Shamir, and you helped me a year ago when I was in a really difficult place in my relationship with my son. And I was in a, difficult place. Let's just call it that. And you did a little heart math process with me on Skype, and it shifted so much for me so fast that, you know, I just know that Spirit had a plan about all this. And I continued to learn more about heart math. I finally read the book, did a lot of research on in the YouTube about the videos with heart math, and then because Spirit just messes with me like this, the heart math schedule coordinator person contacted me and asked me, did I want to host Howard Martin, one of the people that started heart math and still teaches it. And I was like, oh my God, well, yeah, of course. And I asked Shamir to be my co-host because he's the man with the math brain. I'm the heart brain, he's the math brain. So we are hosting Howard Martin for a weekend in Boulder, February 10, 11. You all can see that on the screen. And I'm so excited because he's such a fun teacher. He's really funny and energetic. And we're going to do a little webinar with him later next week, I think.
Yeah, November 17th. What we'll do is we'll send everybody a link to that.
Yeah. So you can hear from him because he's just a great speaker. He's done TED Talks, and you know, he's going to be here in my little town. And I have this kind of this sort of MO about these kind of speakers like Greg and Howard and biological decoding, things that I want to learn about, and I don't want to travel to do it. I bring them here. So I have less traveling, and I have a first-hand experience right here in my town. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, I look forward to playing in the world of heart math more.
That's exciting. You know, we have a number. I think we had 33 attendees live right now, and it's fluctuating between
33.
yeah, we had a 33, and then it's fluctuating between 34 and 32. But interestingly enough, the actual topic that we're going to be talking about at this webinar, and of course we will elaborate it a lot more on February 10th and 11th, is a theme called social coherence, and it ties right back into the meditation that you took us through. Amber, and basically what social coherence is about how your personal energy field affects those around you. And you know, of course, there's lots of evidence now. HeartMath has uncovered, and the more they uncover the evidence, the more HeartMath becomes more spiritually inclined. And so Howard at this webinar is going to talk about social coherence and how the energetic field that's emanated by each one of us when we do meditations like the one we just went through, how it not only affects us, but it affects the community around us. And some of these focused intention exercises, such as meditations that we do, have actually shown to reduce crime rates in the area and get people more into their heart, even though they themselves are not meditating themselves at the time. So I'm excited to have Howard take us through this on November 17th, and we'll send a link out to everyone in case you want to join us. Even if you can't join us on November 17th at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, a replay will be available, and you can listen to him later on. But I should point out, and I think Amber, I probably beat you to the punch on this, is on November 15th, where is the ending of the actual early discounts and bonuses for this event. So we'll send a link out, and if you can take advantage of that to register before November 15th. Wonderful. I think
Yeah,
we're nearing the end of
almost.
the webinar time allotted. We only have a few minutes. I'm going to ask individuals, if you have specific questions about Amber, I'm going to unmute everybody, but if there's too much noise in the background, what I'll do is I'll mute everybody and you guys can enter your chat, your questions in the
Yeah,
chat.
you can type them in there. I like that.
So why don't we do that? Why don't you type your questions in for Meleha, and I'll transmit that to her as your questions come up. So
Yeah,
Amber,
and I want to say, can I just say, there's also global meditation holding the light tomorrow, U.S. Election Day. So anytime that you, wherever you are, can tune in to Spirit has the perfect plan, the best of all possible outcomes, and lots of light on our election, that would be deeply appreciated. Yeah.
yeah, I think this would benefit everybody around the world because whatever happens in
Oh,
the
yeah.
United States
Yeah.
will impact the rest of us. So uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's
Yeah, there's a site called Evolve, EVOLVE, that is on Facebook that's doing the global meditation.
I'll just type that into the chat here so people can see. Wonderful. I'm not seeing any questions. I think you may have answered the questions. Oh, hang on. Whoops.
How do I feel that a woman president will change this country in relationship to the goddess energy? You know, I feel that Hillary is a beginning, that we had, in order to make a shift, you know, Marianne Williamson of A Course in Miracles ran for office in California, and she was not elected. I think that she is too spiritual, really, yet. And I saw a great interview with her afterwards. But I think that Hillary is a manly woman, and she's a tough woman. I mean, look at what she's put up with in her life and not disappeared and just gone into hiding. And she's the kind of person, I believe, that this particular patriarchal country needs to make a transition into more women in office. I mean, all over the world, except for Russia, there have been women in office. There's a queen who's 90 years old that's been one of the longest monarchs in the world. We have women in office in South America, in India. We have it everywhere. And that's not recent. It's happened forever. This country, So for me, she's on the transition team.
Wow. Sherry, thank you for sharing it with us.
Oh, yeah.
Actual.
Elevate the vote. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So where are the gathering? I know we're having one in Red Deer on Saturday. Where else are you having these sisterhood gatherings?
Yeah, the old sisterhood is going to be in North Carolina in a couple of weeks, and then we're going to be in Vegas, baby, in December. Can you imagine Las Vegas and the Lemurian Sisterhood? That will be a different light grid right there, I'll tell you, and I think it's really a good thing. I have been to Vegas with Cryon, but that was before the Lemurian Sisterhood was actually happening. And then, of course, there's after Vegas, we have Lee and Prageet Harris and Marilyn Harper in Boulder for the beginning of the year. That will be fun. Cryon is going to do dual channels with them, and there will be a Lemurian Sisterhood on Saturday night. And then we'll be in San Jose, California, Salt Lake City, Tucson, Arizona, and then in Mount Shasta.
And so all of this information can be found, I think, on your email that you send out to people.
Yeah, there's a link to my schedule.
Yeah. Good. Well, if there are no other questions, we are at 7 bells. So unless there are other questions, we will sign off. Watch out for an email that Amber will be sending out to those who are on this list with a replay, as well as all the information you need about the upcoming events. David Howard webinar on November 17th. Be sure to open the email before November 15th, because if you're planning to come to the February event, you want to take advantage of the bonuses on that day. All right, my pleasure. It has been a sincere honor and privilege.
Honey, thank you so much. Thank you for being the first man to interview the goddess.
You know, I never looked at it that way. That's a real honor. That's a first. I'm going to put that on my website as a medal. and
thank you so much for the work that you do on behalf of humanity. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us. We enjoyed the comments. There are a lot of comments that we've seen here. I am going to collate all these comments and send them to Amber so she can read it at leisure. So love you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for engaging us, and I'm going to bid you all good night. Thank you, Amber.
Bye. Good night, everybody. Love you.
All the best to all of you.